Hi there, my name's Angel, I'm a full-time artist, and last artwork video, if you caught that, if not, go and have a look in the playlist. We did this sketch, I say we, it was me, of a GMC Motorhome. This time around, I'm going to ink and colour that and get that ready for the shop. If you are interested in the original artwork or prints of my work, or even a commission of something unique just for you, then go and have a look on my website. All the information's there, you can see what I do, how much it costs, all that kind of business. Also, in the description box below, there's other ways that you can find more of me, how to support me, all that good stuff. Yeah, I think we'll just get into it, because you're here for the artwork, you're not here for this. And let's see how long this one takes us. My first challenge with doing this inking was Rotring pens. These have got harder and harder to find, particularly post-Brexit, and it's kind of annoying because when I picked this up earlier, my number 3 pen, which is what I'm using here, I say number 3, what I mean by that is it's a 0.3mm, had run out of ink and I didn't have a spare, and all of my usual suppliers were out of stock, so it took me a while to find a new one. Now, as I'm recording this, it is the 27th of February and my deadline for completion on this is the 1st of March, so I kind of have to get it done today. So I should probably stop yapping and just get drawing. I imagine you'd like some GMC facts about the motorhome, and I'm afraid I'm not an expert. I've only ever seen one in person, and that was entirely by chance. It's the sort of thing you expect to see at a car show, because, well, especially in the UK, they're not exactly a common sight. But I saw one by chance just driving down the road, and it looked like it was from another planet. It was amazing. I imagine in the 70s, when these were released, they must have been equally astonishing to see, because they're not at all like any other RV, recreational vehicle. They are quite unique, and very, very 70s. And they're an interesting blend of new and old technology. And you've got to remember, at the time, late 60s, early 70s, we've had the space race, going to the moon and all that kind of thing. And everything's very optimistic and forward-looking, which, wouldn't that be nice? And GMC, particularly, were doing a lot of very interesting, innovative things. You had the things like the Corvair, which was a rear-engined, flat-six family car in the United States, which is such an odd thing. Like, if it came out of Germany, it wouldn't seem quite so strange, but from America, that's a very peculiar thing to build. And I think the motorhome is very much in that sort of mould. Now, I will admit, most of my research has been done on Wikipedia very hastily, because I don't usually do research for artwork videos. And one thing I noticed on the design is there's a bit of a peak down the front of the whole vehicle, and I thought that's a bit Pontiac. You did see a lot of that sort of style in Pontiac products, and in some Vauxhall products as well. If you look at things like the Viva from the 70s, you've got that similar sort of point in the front of the nose. And these were built at the Pontiac factory, so I wonder if maybe originally these were supposed to be a Pontiac. That would have been fun. Because later on you did get things like the Pontiac Transport, which was an MPV rather than an RV. And I wonder if Pontiac was supposed to be like the experimental wing of GMC. I don't know. I'm not really well versed in this. I'm sure somebody in the comments will be, and will be willing to fill us all in. But yeah, where these get interesting is they are built on a chassis, as many big vehicles like this were at the time and still are today. But the chassis didn't make the vehicle tall. It was very low down in the body because you didn't have a prop shaft. I don't know what Americans call them, I've forgotten. The big long pole that takes the drive from the back of the gearbox and puts it to the back axle, because that's not how these work. They're a little bit more interesting than that. In some ways, the GMC Motorhome is quite conventional. We have an engine at the front, and we have the living accommodation at the back. But there's no doors on the front of the vehicle at all. The only door is here on the opposite side that you can't see in this picture. And while the engine is longitudinally mounted, that's about where the conventionality ends with the way this is laid out. So they sort of have, if you've ever seen an electric car with the body removed, they sort of have like a skateboard chassis, I would describe it as. I don't know if that's the actual way that you describe it, but that's kind of what it looks like. And you have the engine up at the front with the gearbox, and then it's just flat all the way to the back, because these are front-wheel drive, which again, for an American vehicle, particularly a big American vehicle like this, is very unusual. You had the Oldsmobile Toronado and the Cord, I can't remember the model name of, they were front-wheel drive, but front-wheel drive is very much the exception rather than the rule in the US, especially for big stuff like this. But you can sort of see why they bothered to do that, because by making it front-wheel drive, everything ahead of this line here is basically the truck. So this is where you sit to drive, it's where all your mechanical stuff is, and then everything backwards of this line is just living accommodation. Your rear axle at the back here, which I think not all of them, but certainly some of them had air suspension on the back, and these are just trailing axles. So you have no intrusion into the cabin at all from the floor, which means you've got quite a low floor on them, so you can get in and out easier, and you have loads of space inside them. I believe I mentioned it in the sketch video, but if you want a better look at how these things are put together, do have a look at Budget Builds, because they've been modernising one of these and doing it in a actually quite a nice way. A lot of modernisation removes the character of the vehicle, but they've not done that with theirs, and I appreciate that because it's not easy to do. In many other ways, of course, these are very conventional for the era. You still have the sealed beam headlights up front, and they're still, you know, I think they were petrol or diesel. I'm not 100% sure, I've not done all my research. But yeah, in some ways very conventional, and in other ways very unusual, particularly for the time. But I could imagine somebody that was, you know, they've got a decent job, they're pretty secure, getting one of these to go alongside their personal luxury coupe, because that was another 70s thing, and just living their best Sid Mead life. want this to feel a little bit like a postcard. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to come across exactly, because I'm not trying to make it look exactly like a postcard. I just want it to have that sort of feel to it. Yeah, we'll see how it evolves as we go along. I mean, I don't know, I could just imagine like greetings from place in America. Maybe. I think we're inked. It's a fairly simple design. What makes this one challenging is the very subtle curves in everything, because it's got this fuselage design to it. But when it comes to actually adding the depth and weight, there's not a lot to add. It's a very smooth shape. As usual, I'm going to let the ink dry before I try and clean anything off. I don't want to be smudging wet ink everywhere. And in a moment for you, we'll be colouring, and it'll be a little bit longer than that for me. I am back, it's all cleaned up, and it's now time to put some colour on it. I'm going to lean into the 70s-ness of this, and I'm also going to be inspired by the one I saw in the real world. That is a very good base 70s colour, somewhere between gold and beige. and I'm not entirely sure what colour you would call it, but they might have called it something like antelope or savannah. You know, something optimistic like that. So next, would have been nice to have surprised you with these colours, but there's quite a bit of black and grey to do. So I've got to get these colours down first, because as we've seen in other videos, it's best to do your black last, because it's impossible to go over it once it's on the page. Which means we have to do all the fun stuff first. But that's okay, I'm sure you don't mind. I'm definitely leaning into the idea as well that this is a van with custom stripes, custom details. Whoever owned this, they wanted something that was just theirs. Which is another very 70s thing, is customising all your stuff. It'd be nice to see more of that, but you can do it through the medium of artwork. I think that's very appropriate for the time period. Orange and brown stripes on a sand beige gold coloured van. Yeah, you don't get much more 70s than that. Before I go into any of the extra details on the van, I'm going to actually have to do the background, because the background is all in colour and they're going to be pale colours. I don't want that pulling it into I don't want to be pulling any darker colours off here and into like the sky. That would be a bad time. Yes, I know, I'm doing the sand and I'm doing it yellow. And you're never supposed to do that because sand isn't yellow. Except when it is. But for this piece, I think that will be good because if I make this sand exactly sand coloured, it's going to blend into the van too much. So by doing a yellow base and then adjusting with shading and highlighting, I think I can get a more convincing sand. Even though this is the wrong way to do it and you should never do sand yellow. It's like how you should never do the sky blue and you should never do trees green. I mean, I understand why these rules exist. It's to do with colour theory and the colour things really are. But in illustration, the rules are slightly different and you can bend them a little bit. One thing with these to point out as well is, like a lot of RVs of the time,
the bodywork was made out of aluminium. And that's not so strange nowadays, except, you know, modern technology and stuff means that we use more than just the aluminium. We use different composite materials as well to improve insulation and that sort of thing. These were an extruded aluminium skeleton, a bit like an aeroplane, and then you would have an aluminium skin, which is what these big smooth panels are all over it, which were bonded on instead of riveted on, if memory serves. And then on the inside it was just spray foam for insulation, so they don't have a lot of insulation in them. But that was fairly normal for the time. And all of these window surrounds here, these are all aluminium, and the windows themselves, which are enormous. RVs at this time, they didn't have as much glass as these have. And the big windows here, I think these are perspex or polycarbonate or something like that. I don't think they're actually glass. Do correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And this big one here, you have a bench seat underneath this, and if the budget builds one is anything to go by, you've also got a drop down sort of fold away bed, ideal for kids. And this is a big sliding window on the side, so the ventilation in these is pretty good. There were some other sort of technological innovations that made these easier to put together as well. This entire back panel here, at least not the corner but the middle bit on the back, unbolts completely. So getting things like beds and fridges and that sort of thing inside here to get the whole thing set up is a lot easier than some of the more conventional ones, where you've got to struggle getting it through the door, which is usually quite skinny. I don't think on the black trim here, I'm actually going to use black. On the pictures I've seen of them, this sort of satin finish is more towards grey than black, and I think that's deliberate. I don't think it's supposed to be jet black. So I'm going to leave that really as it is there, and I think it looks about right. But I will, of course, do the tyres and that sort of thing, so they're black. Do have to be a bit careful with the interior on here, because all of this side, they tend to be, after they were built, tinted on the glass, but not always. Sometimes they just have curtains. But while I would see the interior here, all of this you'd get the reflections from the sky instead, I think. So I'm probably just going to put a little bit of blue on there just to give a hint of that. But I think if I put detail in there, that's actually going to not look right in this instance. I'm also going to have to pick a few reflections upon all the chrome that we have about the place. Again, just to maintain that illusion that we're outside on a bright sunny day.
There we go. That's all finished. I really like this one. It's one of my all-time favourite vehicles. Anything that puts me in mind of Sid Mead, if you've not seen his artwork, do seek it out. It's amazing sci-fi concept cars stuff. It's brilliant. Yeah, I just love stuff like this where it's got this sort of optimistic style to it, looking to the future and all that kind of business. It's good. As well as combining innovative engineering and shaking things up a little bit in a positive way, not just in a gimmicky way. I mean, these vans, they must have got something right, because there's still plenty of people tooling about in them and really enjoying them for what they are without even modernising them. So they were, yeah, a very good idea. And especially in Europe, most camper vans do seem to follow this same format, where you're front wheel drive and you've got a low load area in the back so you can get all your accommodations in. Right, if you are one of the patrons, obviously you have already seen this and you already have that early access to the original artwork. That's one of the perks of being one of my patrons. If not, and you're just watching this on YouTube, thank you very much. This will be available in my shop very soon, if it's not already in there, and you'll be able to get the original, and hopefully prints. I'm not 100% sure how this one's going to scan for prints. We shall see. I will see you all next week. Videos are Tuesdays at 3 PM, and it's crafts one week. This is a craft week, hence the artwork, and cars the following week, and I alternate between the two. Hopefully you'll do a subscribe on your way out, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.